Welcome to this week's episode of Saulcast, where we're talking about Season 4, Episode 9 of Better Call Saul, titled Wiedersehen. This is our instant take. We just watched the episode, so we're going to give you our raw, immediate reactions to the episode, but check back a couple days from now where we'll have our full recap and analysis. I'm Gil.
I'm Adam.
Let's get into it. On this episode of Saulcast, Werner misses his wife.
Oh, that's not the only thing he does.
So we have been speculating all this time what's going to go wrong with the Germans and Werner. Last episode they told us, and we missed it because we were too focused on Werner talking out of turn, showing the guys at the bar the drawing. He misses his wife a lot more than we realized.
Yeah, this episode made me feel so stupid.
That's what this show does best. Makes you feel stupid.
Me in particular.
You in particular.
Yeah. But yeah, they fooled me with Werner. I mean, okay, we all knew something was going to go wrong. We thought, Kai, he's a troublemaker. We knew enough to say maybe he's a red herring. But, then we thought, okay, Werner, he's got a big mouth on him. That's going to be the problem, right? Wrong.
And we thought Werner might be a red herring, but we were even wrong about that. Werner's mouth was a red herring. But Werner himself was the culprit.
It's his feet. His mouth was the red herring, and it's his feet that were the problem because he left
his ability
the warehouse.
To mess up cameras and his feet. Those were the two things that were the problem.
Yeah, so he just picked the wrong body part and ability.
When Werner went on his own to check the wire, were you insanely nervous for some reason? I felt sick to my stomach that whole scene.
Yeah, that was like one of the most nerve-wracking scenes I've seen on this show.
What were you afraid of in that scene?
So when he started shaking, I thought he saw something that scared him. Then I thought maybe there's some kind of gas leak down there or something like that, and like he's having some kind of crazy reaction. Then I realized he's just nervous as hell. And I thought it was just because of the explosives and everything, but I think he was just completely overwhelmed with his life.
I thought at first that the thing which was in the foreground of the camera, which I think was just a pole or something, might have been a dead body of somebody that committed suicide.
Are you okay?
Well, the title of the episode, the German word, if you look it up, it means to meet again. So I thought maybe somebody spray painted that like "see you later" and then killed themselves. And that was what he was reacting to as he was seeing a body.
Oh, and it could have been one of the other workers and they just didn't realize he wasn't there.
Yeah, I thought maybe Kai offed himself, but then I remember that he had just left Kai. So
yeah, and Kai just had his R&R. He's feeling good.
The next thing I thought is that Werner was afraid that the bomb was going to blow up. And then I thought that the title of the episode, Meet Again, referred to the fact that he was going to blow himself up. For some reason, I kept thinking Meet Again means that someone's going to die. And I thought that we were going to see Werner explode here.
Yeah, I thought we were going to see him. There were multiple times during this episode where I thought he was going to die. And I kept thinking about the title. And I can tell you're trying to avoid saying the title, so I want to hear you attempt it.
Let me see if I wrote it down. Oh yeah, here we go. Wiedersehen.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No.
It's probably one of the few German words you actually know already.
Wait, I said that word? Oh. No, I don't know.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Oh.
Wiedersehen.
Wiedersehen. Why did they write that on the rock?
I think they're just like saying bye to the rock because they're about to blow it up. Like, see you later. Till we meet again.
Yeah, that makes sense because everybody had seen that was spray painted, so it wouldn't have made sense for that to be anybody's suicide note.
Yeah, I think that we can that theory should go away.
And that's the sort of insight that you listen for on this show.
Well, on the instant take. Anything goes on the instant take. We're allowed to have... We let all our dumb ideas flow.
Yeah, you know what you're signing up for with the Instant Take.
Yeah, you chose this. But yeah, so Werner, it's interesting because when he talks with Mike, and Mike is basically saying, you can't go back to Germany. Put your head down and just keep going. You can do this. And he's being it was impressive. Like, Mike's there to do a job, but he did seem to have some amount of empathy for him. And you knew that there was no way he could go back to Germany. But at the end of that scene, I looked at just how dejected Werner looked, and he looks around at the cameras, and I thought to myself, he must feel like a slave at this point. It doesn't matter what he's getting paid. He doesn't want to be there anymore, and he can't leave. He's going to get killed if he leaves, and I think he does understand it.
And I'm disappointed in Mike that he should have put Werner on lockdown after that conversation, because it was clear to me that Werner had no intention of staying put. When somebody changes their mind that quickly and that drastically, they're doing it to appease you. And to me, it was clear that he was not put at ease and he had something on his mind. Mike, I think, was still skeptical and concerned, but I wish he had acted on that concern. And
yeah, I think Mike has been giving Werner too much credit all along.
Yeah, if you look at it objectively, Werner's way behind schedule, and then he had the snafu last week. It seems like we knew he was overpromising, but it seems like the gap between reality and his promises is maybe bigger than we realized.
Yeah, and I also think that they underestimated how psychologically challenging that this whole thing would be. And I also think this just goes to show how tough Mike is, because sure, he can leave, but it's basically his job 24/7 to make sure nothing happens there.
Yeah, I thought about that from a storyline perspective, but I don't think either of us expected that Mike's entire plot this season would revolve around this project, but it's essentially been his life for 6+ months.
Yeah, it's cool to see the origin of the lab and how much has happened there. Like, you see everyone cheering and getting so excited over the successful blast, whereas in Breaking Bad, we just take it for granted that there's this sweet lab there. Mm-hmm. We didn't think about everything that went into it, and we have all these associations of everything that happened with Walt and Jesse and all the crazy stuff that went down, and we don't think about how much history it had before then.
Right.
And to think that Mike was a part of its beginning, we never thought about that.
No, we never thought about the blood that went into it. And do you think there will be blood next episode?
I don't see how. Look, every time I think someone's going to die, they don't die. But I still think Werner's going to die.
I think what I could picture is next episode, the Mike storyline is all about going and finding Werner, but it's going to end up being a psychologically torturous thing to watch. Like, I forget which movie it was. Maybe the title will come back to me, but there was a Coen Brothers movie years ago where John Turturro, his character, is going to be executed. And he's thrown into the backseat of a car. He's being driven out to the woods, and the whole time he knows he's going to be killed. So he starts begging for his life, and he starts going crazy. He's like, "Look into your heart. Look into your heart. Don't do it. Don't do it." And you're like, "Oh my God, I can't watch this."
Wow.
I want to see that with Werner next week.
You do? You're gonna get your popcorn ready, and you're just gonna feel such joy and comfort watching him plead for his life.
Michael, look into your heart, Michael.
You got a problem, man.
It's late. I'm sorry.
Anything else right now about Werner, Mike, and the boys? Kai. Hey, Kai screwed up a little.
Just the wire that Werner had to fix?
Yeah, I guess. But otherwise, otherwise he did a good job, and I'm left feeling like Kai was not the problem here.
Yeah, actually, you just reminded me. Never thought we'd see it, but Mike caved into peer pressure when they all tried to get him to take
the
beer.
beer.
And then
Yeah.
Kai was like, come on, Mike. I actually I have to say, Kai sort of endeared himself to me in that scene.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it was good to see them all cheering. Like, they're working really hard, and I can only imagine that normally when you're blasting rock like that, there's probably dozens of people involved, and it's probably a huge undertaking.
And it doesn't have to be done in secret and, this whole quiet affair.
Yeah, so they do have something to be proud of. If only Werner felt that way.
Yeah.
Next, we got Jimmy and Kim, which, again, could we have been more wrong?
Wait, what were we wrong about this time?
We just 1 week ago, we were talking about how maybe Jimmy and Kim are actually together through Breaking Bad.
Well, that could still be.
It could, but it is not looking good there. It looks like Kim still wants to have Jimmy's back. I think she feels bad for him, and I think there's some truth to the things Jimmy was saying about how she just sees him as slipping Jimmy, and she'll roll around in the dirt with him when she wants to have a good time. But when she asks, you still want to be a lawyer, and he says yes, and she can see how upset he is that he didn't get approved.
Mm-hmm.
I think she realizes that there is more to him than that, and she wants to stick by him.
Do you think that she is hatching a scheme that will somehow get him, to be able to practice law sooner rather than later?
Yes, but I don't know if it's going to involve anything outright illegitimate, because I can think of some ways that they could try to appeal this such that they just rely on empathy by saying, if he seemed insincere, it's because he's still struggling to cope with his brother's horrific death, and that was the elephant in the room, but it's just something he hasn't been able to fully confront yet. Like, I mean, how could you tell him he's wrong?
When he walked out of the room and hesitated, I expected him to turn around, go back in, and use Chuck and say, hey, listen, when you asked me that last question, my real inspiration is my brother, but it's just hard to talk about. It's something like that. And I wonder if that's what he was. I mean, it was clear he bungled those last two questions. The second to last one about what does the law mean to you, he turned it around, but then he really screwed up that last question.
Go land crabs.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was doing all right until that question, and it's such, you can feel for Jimmy because after all this crap that Chuck put him through, from beyond the grave now, he wins.
But the thing is that the counsel was right. I mean, he was being insincere.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I hate to say this, but he probably shouldn't have, he probably shouldn't get his license back.
He shouldn't. I mean, he definitely shouldn't. What I loved that they did in this episode is when Jimmy and Kim were at the restaurant, he makes that remark, all my clients, they know me as Saul Goodman. And you're like, wow, they're setting this up. Next week, he gets his license back. Yeah. He's already alluding to the fact that he has to go by Saul Goodman. And then they pull the rug out from under you, 15 minutes later when he gets turned down.
Yeah, I really didn't expect. I mean, if you hear the way we've been talking about this plot point all along, we just took it for granted that he just gets approved at the end of this. I didn't even realize it was really a question.
Yeah, we've literally been wrong about everything that we were certain about. But the whole season, the momentum was going towards he's getting his license back, he's going to be Saul Goodman, and they just continuously shock you. And we know he ends up being a practicing lawyer, right? They can't change that. I have no idea how he gets there now, though.
Yeah, I think I think Kim is going to help him. I think maybe there's a chance that she doesn't, or that things don't work out, but he manages to do it himself, and then maybe that gives him enough of a feeling of independence that he doesn't even feel he needs Kim anymore. But ultimately, it looks like they're setting out for them to cooperate, at least on this. And how about that fight between them on the roof of the garage? That was between Jimmy storming out of the the place where he had to go for his approval, and then throwing his suitcase against the wall. Between that and the conversation he had with Kim, I don't think we've ever seen that much emotion out of him, that much anger. Normally, even in bad situations, he's got a sense of humor about him. But this was him at his absolute lowest. When Kim says that, Jimmy, you're always down. That we've never seen him more down than this.
Yeah, and when he confronted the guy from the council and starts yelling at him, I did everything right, and then throws his suitcase against the wall. Like, I really felt for him there. I was so just in sync with what he was feeling, the frustration, like, you get it.
Yeah, it's like from day one of this show, you feel like he's banging his head against a wall, trying to get things to work. And it's just nothing can go right for him. But he can't see that a lot of that is his own fault.
Yeah. It's an emotion we can all relate to. It's when you have taken every step. When you've plugged in your mic, you got your computer on, and then you listen to the recording and it just doesn't sound right. And you think, I bought the right equipment, I set it up the way I always set it up, and it just doesn't work. It's really frustrating.
Yeah. Not that we would know anything about that. And that certainly wouldn't explain why this episode's coming out so late.
Just a random hypothetical example.
Ooh.
Adam, this episode had a major appearance by a character I know you've been waiting for.
Oh yeah, the bell.
Ding, 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 ding.
I was yelling at the screen and cheering when Hector's bell came out. I never knew that I wanted a Hector Bell origin story.
I know,
but I did.
And as always, it's not just that the origin story has added a layer to the character of Hector, and now I find myself weighing who's more evil, Hector or Gus? Because Hector, explain the story to me. He burned a guy and his wife alive because he found the guy annoying, was sort of my read on it.
So I don't know how that guy wronged him, but from what Lalo was saying, it sounds like, yeah, he was annoying. He was always boasting about how smart he is because he was a professor, and then he was running a hotel, and so it sounds like they burned him alive, and Lalo was there.
Yeah.
So Lalo seems like this. He's he's fun to watch, and he's friendly and enthusiastic, and it's all fake. And behind that, there's some kind of like absolutely, completely amoral or sadistic person.
It's so much fun to watch him and Gus because you've got to think Gus in his mind is like, who is this clown?
Yeah.
But
yeah,
but you get the sense that Lalo has some capability. There's some real power.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's actually a match for Gus, which is crazy. That's really saying something. And after the scene where Gus and Lalo were sitting around chatting, I thought to myself, this scene right here, if not for the fact that Lalo is putting on an act, if this was all legitimate, this would be Gil's fantasy. That these two drug lord people, these two criminals, can sit down and just chat and set aside their differences and just be like, hey, why do we keep hurting each other? Why don't we just work together?
Right. I like how my fantasy is that drug dealers can get along. That's what I want in this world.
Well, because you're always lamenting how these criminal. Why is it that if you enter these criminal industries, everyone's got to be killing each other all the time?
Right. We were talking about it like it's this big aspiration for me if I was, going out for like a Miss America beauty contest. Like, what would you change about the world? Well, I believe that if drug dealers could just get along with each other and stop trying to kill each other and take each other's territory, then the world would be a better place. Ah! Yeah!
Gil's fantasy is to become Miss America, in case that wasn't clear to everyone.
But you were saying, speaking of people...
Yeah, speaking of killing, I loved Lalo's line when they were leaving Hector at the nursing home. That was one of my favorite lines of the entire series.
Wait, I remember laughing. Remind me what the line was.
Yeah, he just goes, "Same old Hector, just wants to kill everybody." That was amazing.
Oh, he's such a great character. Such a great addition to the show.
Oh, and he treats Nacho like just such a little underling. Like, he tells him, why don't you go get some Jello? And Nacho barely got a word out.
Did Nacho have even one line?
He said like one thing, like that no taps means no and one tap means yes, right?
Oh, and his one other line, it was telling him that they do their drug deals at the chicken farm.
Oh, yeah. But otherwise, he barely spoke, and which is appropriate because Lalo is this domineering presence.
He just gave a lot of expressions. Like when Lalo left and Gus looks at him and Nacho's just like, I don't know.
Yeah. I love the idea of him just kind of shrugging at Gus like, your guess is as good as mine here. Meanwhile, Gus is basically like Gus holds Nacho's life in his hands at all times.
The other expression I remember Nacho making is when the older lady grabs her purse away because I guess she doesn't trust Nacho.
Yeah.
I thought that maybe that was some slight racism from her.
Yeah, I took it that way.
And he kind of gives a look like, okay.
By the way, do you think Hector is going to become the most popular guy in the home now that he has his bell?
He rang it an unnecessary number of times there. I think he was literally just getting enjoyment from knowing that he's annoying everybody.
Oh, I think so. Look, the two things that we've seen Hector do since the stroke is intentionally knock something over so that he could eye up a nurse and then ding the bell so many times that it must have annoyed everyone else in the home.
And then instead of Lalo being like, yo, it's Hector, chill, he's like, that's a Salamanca. Like he's impressed by
it. Yeah, you ring that bell.
He's doing the equivalent of what a 3-year-old does to just make a sound over and over.
Yeah.
He's like my guy.
Exactly. I thought he was like if you give a kid a whistle, you regret it immediately.
Or a kazoo.
Yeah. And you look in Hector's eyes, and he just looks so crazy when he's just ringing that bell over and over again.
One thing that didn't occur to me until this episode is, even though he was being disingenuous the entire conversation, when Lalo thanks Gus for saving Hector's life, never occurred to me that people would look at Gus saving Hector's life as a favor to the Salamancas, because we know he did it for nefarious reasons. But how do people perceive that? Do they actually see it as Gus just being a human and he couldn't watch somebody die, even if it would potentially benefit his business?
That's a good question, because I can't believe that Lalo thinks Gus did that out of any moral sense. I just don't buy it.
Neither do I, but at the same time, would they be able to to ascertain that he hates Hector so much and he's so psychotic he wants to keep him alive to torture him.
Well, Lalo did mention something about, like, given your guys' history or the past that you share. So, and it sounds like Lalo is pretty in deep in terms of the family business. So I think he knows what happened.
Oh, I'm sure he knows what happened. And I'm sure, but I wonder if a normal person in that situation would scratch their head and say, Gus hates this guy so much. Why would he save his life? I mean, maybe it's not hard to imagine, even if you don't assume that the person is crazy psychotic, that they'd want to take a better revenge than just letting somebody die of a stroke.
Yeah, that, or it could be for the sake of stability. So maybe they think it's not like if Hector dies, the Salamancas are toast. It's just someone else comes and replaces him, or there's a power vacuum. I mean, that's probably why, that's one of the reasons we think Lalo is there.
That's true. That's true.
So it could just be that Hector wants stability.
Right, or that Gus wants stability.
That Gus wants stability.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, so I think there's any number of reasons why they would not necessarily see Gus saving Hector as a truly, good act.
Yeah. Another reason I'm glad Lalo is there, we're learning more about Pollos Hermanos. There's 7 restaurants.
And God, the way he described the chicken, Lalo has a flair for that. He knows how to sell food.
Yeah, I was dying of cravings for that chicken, and it's good to see someone say so, because that chicken has always looked so good on this show, and no one ever says anything about it. And so to see him say what I had hoped it would taste like, it was just wonderful.
I think everything Lalo said was disingenuous. It was a lie, but I choose to believe that he was speaking truthfully when it came to the chicken.
Yeah, I really do think that.
And they already established that he knows food because we were introduced to him when he was cooking.
That's true. Oh, God, I'm hungry.
Yeah, me too.
So then they're going to go see the chicken farm. It's funny. Lalo just like asks him, he throws his Pollos Hermanos cup out the window, leaves it in the parking lot before they drive off, which was a nice little touch. And he's just like, show me the chicken farm. And they go.
We only have 1 episode left this season.
Yeah. This is one of the few episodes this season that really gave me that cliffhanger feeling in the pit of my stomach. Most episodes of this season they obviously don't resolve everything, but they wrap up kind of neatly, and you feel like the chessboard was set up for the next episode. But this time remember that feeling you would get during Breaking Bad when it would say created by Vince Gilligan on the screen, and you'd be like, God damn it, why did it have to stop there?
Yes, I remember.
That's what I felt tonight.
Yeah. If you had to predict what will be the final scene of this season. Last season it was Chuck and the Lantern.
I think it will be Werner comes back to the lab, says he's sorry, and they finish it all in one go. They just do it. They overnight it, and it's finished. Then they all go back to Germany. Then Jimmy and Kim get married and start... and it just jumps ahead, and you see that during the whole period of Breaking Bad, they had a great time, and they worked together, and it was fun.
I think we follow Gus. He gets in his car. He's driving. You wonder, where's this going? He gets to his house. He walks in. The camera zooms in on Gus's face, and he says, "Ah, I see you've returned." The camera pans over. You see the coati in his kitchen. I'm Gil.
I'm Adam.
And go land crabs.
If you like listening to Saulcast, we like hearing what you have to say about it. We love reading your reviews and seeing your ratings in the Apple Podcast app. It's incredibly motivating for us, especially for Gil. He's always talking about that every time we see a new one, it makes his day, and he actually works out harder when he's exercising. The pounds are just melting off of him.
I did a bicep curl earlier today.
You see, he would not have done that if not for these great reviews you guys are leaving us. And so please keep them coming. We love reading them. We also love all the emails we've been getting at our email address, saulcastbros@gmail.com. You guys keep sending in your theories, and a lot of them have come true, and it's really exciting to see what a smart audience we have. So please keep them coming. We love to discuss them on our show, and you can bet that we're going to be reading some of your predictions on this week's Full Take in just a couple of days. And don't forget to tweet us your theories too. If you want everyone else to see them, we can discuss them out in the open at SaulCastPod on Twitter. I mean, how long do you think that lasts?
Well, I was going to make a joke of like, well, when I go to a strip club, I'm feeling good for the next, 6 to 8 months. But I've never been to a strip club. Let's cut that out.